So now we're inside the lobby, entrance lobby of the train station. I'm going to pan around just really briefly, just to randomly give us a sense of what we're looking at. It's a large room, but not as huge as New York Central Station appears to be, but far, far more elegant. I'm going to start by slowly panning around this upper portion, which seems to be a movie, if you will, of probably historical events related to transportation. Looks like a knight. Maybe his pages and courtiers. Now starting from left to right, we'll move down the long wall opposite the actual entrance and look at these top panels. So here's someone carried in a litter on horseback. A step up from being carried by humans. And here a more rustic period, maybe depicting in the history of the Goths or somebody like that in their invasion. You'll notice the road is much rougher. The people look much more rough. Hopefully I can see this better when I get it on a computer. I can't see that well, but I'm guessing this is a barbarian who has stolen a woman captive. Here, of course, the Roman period, chariots. That's how heavy-wheeled they look from the side. But notice also that ladies are playing an important part in this history movie. It's interesting, on the other side of the arch, the artist was compelled to put something. So he has what looks like a lady or two on a chariot, and the back end of a horse. Now, for some reason, it's interesting. Here is a railroad, right in the middle of what I've been interpreting as an older history, and this even older, I would think, but I don't know. Looking now back at the opposite of that long wall, the wall that contains the actual entrances into the station, it just looks like references or allusions to what we've already seen, maybe because there isn't that much space up there with which to paint a real history. So I'm not going to bother trying to get it. Now I'm facing the left wall as you come into the station, and I'll pan that second level all the way around the building. I'm sure this is depicting great battles in Portuguese history. Depicting a king with a religious person behind him on the left side, talking with a man and his woman. He looks like a crusader from that cross on his breast. Interestingly, part of the story is he has a noose around his neck and he's holding on to the rope itself. Perhaps that's a formality of offering your life to the commander or whatever. Now we're looking at the left side of the back wall. Here's some kind of a parade ceremony with this is classic in Catholic, Spanish, Portuguese towns probably, where the icon of the Virgin or somebody else of importance is carried through the street once a year in a big celebration. I have no idea what this symbolizes. This probably just showing ladies at the town pump waiting to their turn to fill up their jugs with water and return home. And many of these panels may simply be panels that illustrate daily life. Here collecting what may be olives off those trees, and plants and foodstuffs from the garden below. And ladies bringing in wheat maybe from the fields, or straw, or some other kind of produce. This certainly looks like it has to do with the Porto wine business. You can see in the upper left-hand boat, or on the wagon that's drawn by the oxen, a large barrel perhaps being ready to be put into that boat to be floated down to Porto for storage. Maybe this depicts also a common way for people, women, to travel up and down the river. Here, this panel dealing with the gathering of wheat or straw or hay, whatever, and a great counterpoint to my walk across the Meseta. And here in the lower panel, the use of the water wheel to grind up that very grain. What's interesting is the animals standing with their wagon filled with hay in the water, illustrating some purpose that I don't understand. And here we are in the right-hand panel on that back wall. This, what looks to be the big celebration, perhaps the end of the season celebration. People on the left recovering from the night before. People on the right still reveling away. Others arriving by carriage. Reminds me of that little town I went through the other day on the way to Muxia, where it was evident that there had been one heck of a celebration the night before. And this is a panel of showing a musician and then ladies and others perhaps selling their wares, maybe nuts, maybe things that they've gathered in the fields. And still the element of transportation, of course, being this is a railroad station, a large carriage covered with people in the background. And here again a scene, probably a local fair. Maybe this is depicting the livestock sale. And this is the panel on the far right wall as you come in. Again, depicting a great heroic moment, probably the arrival of this king, and it may be Pedro IV from Brazil arriving back in Porto. Those may be depictions of the original walls of Porto, although they were on a hilltop. Maybe that's what that describes. Always the presence of the church, that second government, that ultimate power that supports power. And this bottom panel represents Infante Henrique, conquest of Ceuta in the 15th century. But this is a noble moment. It's obvious that he was a conqueror and slayer of Muslims. There, a man to the right holding up his sword and handing it, in essence, offering it to the conqueror. Horse dead. Other supplicants, Muslims praying for their lives to be spared. While the hacking continues in the upper panel here. The fallen standard, of course, is a typical symbol of submission and of conquering and of defeat. Notice the facial expression of this man, this conqueror, this Christian. No wonder after a battle of this intimate, gory nature. So this large panel represents the entrance of João, J-O-A-O, the first, into Porto for the celebration of something or other.